So here we are. The reading for today comes from Joel Goldsmith. Let your alignment with well-being be first and foremost, and let everything else be secondary. And not only will you have an eternally joyful journey, but everything you have ever imagined will flow effortlessly into your experience. There is nothing you cannot be, do, or have, but your dominant intent is to be joyful. The doing and the having will come into alignment once you get that one down. You got it? Okay, so let us feel the joy of a grateful heart as we speak this truth together. Knowing God is my source, I express gratitude in a generous way, and I open my heart to money and good of every kind that come to me in increasing quantities through multiple channels and in a continuous stream. And so it is.
So it is. What a great name, huh?
Yes. That makes you think of a turkey.
Yeah, he's kind of right in with the season, right? I
You did it
thought
on
of that.
purpose.
Okay, so today I want to dwell on this concept of the law of opulence. And one of the first things that I want to introduce to all of you, or even just have us contemplate, is this idea that we can't pray about material things. You know, cars, food, money, any type of thing that we could need in this world of effects. And so when you hear that, you often think, well, materialism. And yet, I don't want us to be misled. I want us to really kind of start right back at the root of all of the teachings that have come before us that have supported that this is not only okay, it's just part of life. So let's go back to the teachings of Jesus. What are some of the things that he said? He said, I come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Right. He also said that the Creator is forever saying to us, he didn't put it in exactly those words, but these are the words, all that I have is thine. All that I have is thine. He also affirmed what we call the law of cause and effect, or what Ernest Holmes also calls the law of necessity, which is whatever things you desire when you pray, believe that you have them, and you shall have them. He said, whatever things you desire. He didn't say only this or only that. He said, whatever things you desire when you pray, believe that you have them, and you shall receive them. So, what is this philosophy of materialism then? Let's think about it. It's based on an idea that there is God and something else. There's God and something else. And truly, if we think our good is only going to come from things out there, then we're caught up in that paradigm because we're thinking there's something separate outside of us. But if we think that there's God and something else, then what does that do? That divides the creator from creation. And what we believe that God is in all, through all, as all. That creation is God in form. It's all God. It's all God. And it also, if you separate things out, God from its creation, there's also a tendency to think of the kingdom of heaven as some far off event that happens after we leave this plane, when in truth, The kingdom of heaven is where? Within us. It's here now within us. And he also said the kingdom of heaven is at hand, not off in the future, here and now. At hand, to me, means here and now, correct? All right. So again, in this idea of oneness, the omnipresence of God. Omnipresence means present everywhere in its fullness, in its totality, this presence of the divine. Reminds us that this thing, this prayer about material things is really fine. I mean, it's what we're doing anyway. Whenever we have a desire in our hearts for something new, it's actually a prayer. It's a prayer, particularly when we align it with the awareness that all there is God. When we begin to see through our eyes that all there is God. God is all there is. And life is so beautifully designed. In fact, Florence Scovel Shinn, who is a New Thought enthusiast, an author who was back in the 1920s, she wrote this. She said, "The game of life," and that was the name of her book, "the game of life is a game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, our deeds, and our words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy." With astounding accuracy. So one of the ways that I love to describe it, I love Esther Hicks' way of describing how this game of creation works, and you'll see that this fits right in with Holmes teaches and what Joel Goldsmith, just the beautiful reading that Candace had. And so life itself, just whatever happens in our daily lives, gives birth to rockets of desire. If there's something that we that we come into contact with and it's not quite the way we want it, well, it gives birth to a new desire. She calls them rockets of desire, which I love. And then there is a universal law of cause and effect, a law that responds to these rockets of desire and brings them into manifestation. It's like, okay, so then why doesn't it happen each and every time? Well, see, there's a part that we play in that. And the part that we play in that is that it's our job to get out of the way and let the law do its work. That means to be in alignment with the vibrations of the Most High. Love, peace, and joy. Joy is like the ultimate of the state of allowing. So that's why Joel Goldsmith says to cultivate or make it our first intention to be the vibration of joy. That's the ultimate of allowing. That's the part that we play. Isn't that great? So the rockets of desire, they happen automatically, and we can actually help them through the visioning process by going deep and listening and allowing those new rockets of desire, those new ideas in the mind of God be birthed through us. Because, when we do allow this to happen, we are allowing the Spirit, the divine, to express more fully in us, through us, and as us. We are playing our part in creation, and a really vital part. And we want to allow ourselves contact with the very highest vibrational ideas that we can. And so that's why our meditation practice, our spiritual mind treatment practice, our visioning practice, where we listen deeply, all of that is part of allowing these beautiful ideas in the mind of God to be birthed through us, so that we can use our particular gifts and talents in the most amazing and beautiful way. So I love that. The rockets of desire, they happen automatically, or we can even encourage them more by going into the visioning process and listening deeply. The universal law works automatically, and it's the all power of God itself. And then our job is to hang out in the field of joy, the vibration of the Most High. And when you hear, "Thy will be done," that's what we're talking about. Thy will, the will of the divine, the will of God is that we live in this vibration of love, peace, and joy, that we be beacons of these beautiful qualities of God. And what are they? They're an experience, a feeling of love, a feeling of peace, a feeling of joy. Okay, so everybody's got that part, right? Those are the three parts of creation.
Don't worry. Be
And
happy.
so let's reiterate what Joel Goldsmith said. He said, so first we align with joy. And so we know that, we now see that makes sense. And he said, for a joyful life and for all to flow effortlessly into our experience, this is what we do. We just hang out in joy. He said, there is nothing you cannot be, do, or have, but your dominant intent is to be joyful. The doing and the having will come into alignment once you get that down. So I want to give you an illustration with a story that's in 1 Kings. It's a story of Elijah and Zarephath, and many of you may know this from your background in the Bible. So in this story, the prophet Elijah was guided by the Spirit to go to this widow's home, Zarephath, and to ask her for food. And when he did, she says, I only have enough flour and oil to make something for my son and myself. And she said, and after that, we'll starve and die. So she was letting him know, this was it. This is all that I have. And so he said, fear not. And by the way, Elijah means, because these, the Bible is full of symbolism. The name Elijah means God within. So it's the God within that is speaking. This is for a message for us. The God within is speaking and saying, fear not, make a cake for me, and you'll find that it doesn't diminish. You'll find that your supply does not diminish. And he said, then go make some for yourself and your son. So our human minds go, wait a second here. She needs to feed herself and her son. But this isn't really so much about that. This is really about something deeper for all of us. And what is it that we are, and well, let me finish the story first. And so she did. She went ahead in full faith, in full trust, and with joy in her heart, and made the cake for Elijah. And sure enough, she had plenty for her son, and for many days after that. So what does that tell us? Well, Zarephath actually stands for a place of refinement or purification where you transform metal, metal, what am I trying to say? It's like a smelt place where you can refine all the impurities out and produce a precious metal. And so isn't that what we do when we step out in faith and we begin to realize that our source is not out there, it is within us. It's a field of pure potentiality and possibility that is invisible to the naked eye, and that's why sometimes it can be a challenge to believe in it. But there is a field of all possibility. We are tapped in to the very mind of God and all of the ideas that are present in that mind of God. But where do we access it? We access it within us. It means giving ourselves time in meditation and prayer, turning into the silence and listening. So again, this beautiful little story tells us that when we do this, there is an abundant supply. Our things that are in the physical world that seem to be in short supply seem to be that way because that's what we're focusing on. We're noticing the lack instead of realizing within us is a world of ideas, and ideas become form. Remember, they're acted upon by the universal law, and all we need to do is to get out of the way. One of the ways we get out of the way is to stop thinking about the lack. Stop thinking about, oh, there's not enough. Something's missing or something's wrong. We have to begin to turn inward and begin to see the vision of ourselves being, doing, having the things that we desire. That's how we stay in alignment, and that's how we keep ourselves in a higher vibration, in that joy vibration, by knowing we already have it. Deepak Chopra says it so beautifully. He said, "The source of all creation is pure consciousness, pure potentiality seeking expression from the unmanifest to the manifest. And when we realize that our true self is one of pure potentiality, we align with the power that manifests everything in the universe." Beautiful little story, isn't it? And I love to look at these deeper meanings. And it speaks to me so much of some of the practices that we have in place. So what are some of the ways that we purify ourselves of all of these impurities? The impurities meaning the lack and limitation consciousness and the fear and doubt that goes with it. And to move ourselves then into a higher frequency state. We have something that was actually introduced to us by Charlie a couple weeks ago called mindful journaling. Is a really powerful way to do that, where we just turn within and we journal, we write down all those lack and limitation thoughts and doubt and fear, to get it out of our system. It actually works beautifully. It's powerful. So it's a way of cleansing the subconscious mind and returning us to a higher vibration. And when these different states are measured, and this is using some scientific stuff, we're moving what's called the beta state. A beta state tends to be what we hang around in most of the time, and it's a state of stress, because we're noticing the lack and what's missing and that kind of thing. So it's a state of stress, and it's a block for us realizing the good that's trying to seek expression through us. So when we do these journaling practices, and mindful journaling, by the way, is a form of meditation. And in meditation, that's actually what you're doing, is you're purifying, you're letting go of the emotions, the thoughts, and all of those things that get in the way. They're coming up out of the subconscious. And if you don't cling on to them and you let them just keep moving by, then eventually they purify. But this journaling thing that Charlie came up with really facilitates that beautifully. Another thing, our teens have created something to support that whole thing. The mindfulness poles that are in the back. That's a beautiful way to clear out the subconscious mind. You can clear out whatever is bothering you. Do you want to go and hold one up for us, Elijah? Yeah, it's beautiful. And the top comes off, and you can put all of those things that you're releasing into that and give it to God. You're giving it to here, God, you transform it. The term for this that many of us may be familiar with is called casting the burden. Anybody? Does that sound familiar to anybody? Casting the burden. So when you're doing this, when you're releasing the doubt and the fear and all of that, and giving it over you're actually giving it over to the divine within, or the Christ within, to transform. And when we talk about the Christ within, we're talking about a state of consciousness that is a very high vibrational state. You could call it Buddha consciousness, you could call it Moses consciousness, you could call it whatever. But the idea is that it's a vibration of the most high, those states of love, peace, and joy, in which we can cast our burdens and all of those thoughts of lack and limitation that burden us, so that we can be clear and allow the divine to express more freely, fully, and expansively through us. So purification, and that moves us into the alpha and the theta levels. And actually, in that theta level of consciousness, which is very peaceful, just beautiful peace, then we are that fertile soil for the seeds of the divine to take root and to grow. Fertile soil, that theta state of consciousness. Do you see why it's so important to meditate and do our spiritual practice? I mean, that's the first thing I did after we did our our practice this morning, because I didn't have a chance to do it first thing this morning, I went into the other room and I meditated, and I could just feel all of the whatever was going on with me letting go, so that I could be really present for you and let the message of the Most High come through me and as me. So Ernest Holmes says this. He says, there is a power in the universe greater than you are, greater than I am, greater than all of us, and we can use it. When the greatest teacher that ever lived said, it is done unto you as you believe, he was talking about this power within us. We have to believe that the power exists. We have to believe that it's done unto us as we believe. For instance, we believe that the sun will rise in the morning and set at night. We believe that the grass will grow. When we believe in the manifestation of those ideas that come to us as being automatic, and all we need to do is get into alignment with love, peace, or joy, then we are truly understanding how the universal law works. And we can live in grace. We can live in faith when we understand that this is how it works. So here's the beautiful thing, because Joel Goldsmith says, get into alignment first with the vibration of joy, and then you can be, do, or have anything. Well, this is what happens when we are in alignment with these vibrations of the Most High, peace, love, joy. We can hear our guidance better. There's not all that racket of the monkey mind going on, We can hear the guidance. It's clearer, which means we then move into right action because it's divinely guided. It's inspired action. Our actions then become God-filled actions. And so it means that we become a beneficial presence on the planet. How good is that?
Very good.
Yes. Another thing that we can do, and I'm going to take this from Esther Hicks because I think it's so beautiful. We can raise ourselves to the joy level by doing what she calls going on a rampage of appreciation. A rampage of appreciation. Noticing everything around us that we appreciate. I appreciate and love all of you so dearly. I appreciate this beautiful center that we have. I appreciate the decor that our aesthetics team continues to produce so that we are surrounded in beauty. Remember, this is all God in form. All of this beauty. I appreciate my wonderful husband, Dan, for coming up with all of the projection things and the sound and all of the other things that he does to support me and to support our center. I appreciate the people who were the leads on the teams, people like Tom and Peggy and Candace and Sharon and Danielle for showing up and saying yes, kind of like on the last moment, because we found out that Katie Love had moved to Hong Kong, so Danielle was like yes, and think about this. And she was actually brought up through the Science of Mind tradition as a child. She attended all of the classes. She went to the teen groups. She actually came to a teen group that was held here some time ago. Were you one of the teens or one of the assistants?
Teens.
You're one of the teens! So she is totally steeped in this tradition. I mean, think of the gift of that. And all of the other people, Lucinda and just there's so many beautiful people out here. Reverend Linda, all of you who are just doing wonderful, great work here for this spiritual community. I'm so full of gratitude. So take a moment and just turn to somebody next to you and share a few things that you feel grateful for. We're going to go on a rampage of appreciation right here, right now, in this moment. So tell everybody around you.
I so appreciate you showing up, coming and sharing your voice.
grace and your sense of humor and your beautiful spirit with us. I appreciate your I appreciate your groundedness. I like noticed it when you walk in and you're just so present and grounded. I appreciate that. I appreciate you showing up. I know. The more I look at you, I mean, I know. But you feel so. So ditto. That's even more like you. Thank you. I just go.
Feels good, doesn't it? We are in a high state of allowing. Isn't that awesome? That's all that it takes, is just to start noticing and talking about all the things that we appreciate. We're in a high state of allowing. The final thing I want to leave you with is this thing called expectation. Because, you think about the seed that's being planted in the soil of our minds, and which are the new thoughts, and then how we feed them with our vibrations of the Most High. And that's kind of like the sunlight, isn't it? The sunlight, the vibration of joy, of gratitude. And the other one is expectation. This is another way that we shine the light on what it is that we desire. Raymond Hollowell, who wrote Working the Universal Law, this book that he wrote, he said, desire without expectation is idle wishing. Desire without expectation is idle wishing. He said, desire, of course, will set the new cause in motion, like we talked about, automatically. Continuous expectation is necessary to bring it into a reality in your life. So, otherwise we're wasting our energy. If we have a desire and we don't expect it to happen, we're not supporting ourselves very well, are we? So we have to remind ourselves, we have to choose to expect it to happen. And there's a beautiful quote in the book of John, chapter 10, verse 35, that speaks to this thing of expectation. And it says, don't you have a saying, it's still 4 months until harvest? I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest. What is he teaching? He's teaching to see it as happening now. We see it in our mind's eye as happening now. Because that's the way that it comes into manifestation. That's what's called expectation. We see it as happening now. We know that it's happening now, even if there's not physical evidence in front of us. So again, let's just go through this law of opulence. There's first of all the law of allowing, the law of cause and effect that happens once we give birth to a desire. It happens automatically. And Ernest Holmes also calls that the law of necessity, because it's necessary, it just happens. And then there's the law of divine will, is what Ernest Holmes calls it, or allowing, which means to align ourselves with the vibrations of the Most High. So we align ourselves by removing the weeds in our garden, our mental garden, all of those thoughts of lack and limitation, by casting the burden, however we decide to do that. Meeting with a practitioner and sharing your story is a way of casting the burden. You're getting it off your chest. And, our mindfulness polls, etc., until you reach a place of peace. Next, you can use things like spiritual mind treatment to keep the quality of your thoughts at a very high level. That's high quality thought, divinely inspired thought. And you give it ample water by taking inspired action. Remember, when we're in peace, when we're in joy, we can hear our guidance better, and it becomes productive and beneficial. And then we expect that it's happening now and go on a rampage moment by moment of appreciation, living in that vibration of joy. And our spiritual practice daily is so important to keep pulling out the weeds, because we are in this world. We are exposed to the media. We're exposed to negative conversation at times. And so it's important that we continue to clean the garden of our minds with spiritual practice. And so my heart is just so wide open to you. I see every single one of you prospering in every way imaginable, because I know that you are just so excited to apply these, these beautiful principles in your life. And I say yes, and so it is.